Hey YouTube, it's Little Comics again, and today I wanted to talk about Multiverses since it's basically failing, I guess. This is gonna be another rambling video. Uh, it's just a topic I was interested in and I wanted to cover it, so I'll just go ahead and get right into it. But Multiverses was it was a fun fighting game when it first came out. I'm really into video games, especially fighting games, and it's always sad when a fighting game doesn't do well, and especially when any game goes offline and the game's dead. We talk about dead games a lot, when the player count is down and when people leave, and it happens a lot in fighting games, especially. But it's another thing when the game is not even getting supported. And this game is not even getting support after this new season, this season 5, after which you're not gonna be able to play that game. So it's really weird. I know something like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was in like this free fall state for a long time, and people weren't able to play it at all. And finally, people are now able to play it and get their hands on it. And this, once they take it off, you won't you won't be able to play it. Like you'll be able to play it offline, but in terms of online play, you can't play it, and that's wild for a fighting game. Like I've played games like that before. Like if you wanted to play Little Big Planet online right now, you're not playing Little Big Planet online. RIP LBP, one of the best games ever. But like you can't do that. That is beyond it. That game is like crucified. Um, and I think it'd be interesting to just talk about some of the positive and negative of the game. So when the game first came out, it was cool because it's a platform fighter and it's a free to play one, right? And so everybody's getting onto it because they see all the Warner Brothers IPs and they're like, oh man, I get to play as Bugs Bunny, I get to play as Batman and Superman, and it's really fun. And it was really fun to play when you had like a partner to play. It really shined in duo matches, and I think that was cool. Like, when you play Smash, you can also play duos and stuff, and that's really cool when you have a partner, and it was similar to that. The thing is, it was kind of tailor made for that, for one thing. And when you didn't have a partner, it's like, why would you play single player? And I know that's kind of wild because it's like you can always, run online and play, but like find somebody to play with. But when the whole thing is like the single player content isn't quite there, you know, it makes you less likely to want to play. And then there's also that free to play aspect. Most fighting games aren't free to play because they don't have that longevity to them. So it's a lot harder. Not to say that it couldn't work, but you might have a rough time trying it. So on that end, it was already kind of iffy. But then I think the biggest issue came when the game first started like dying down. Because again, it's a fighting game; it'll die down. And platform fighters just have a hard time outside of Smash anyway. I'll talk about that a bit more later. But it started dying down, and the kind of stopped supporting it for what felt like a year. I don't remember how long it actually was, but they stopped supporting it for like almost a year, it felt like. So you would think in that time they would have made some major improvements because apparently this was the beta phase, quote unquote. And so they're gonna roll out this brand new multiverse experience and it's gonna be amazing. And we get it, and then the hype already wasn't really there when it was coming back, at least for me personally. You can let me know in the comments, but once they actually dropped it, it was just kind of like, oh, well, let's see what they added. And it honestly didn't feel like much of a difference. Like I barely opened it up, but then I like looked at the things they added, and I really can't even remember too much. But it didn't feel like a new game, especially for the time they took. Most, and this is like weird for fighting games or just games in general. Usually, when you have a major update like this, it's something that you add alongside the game. Like this game will still be playable, but they add updates and stuff throughout the game for you to shut down the servers essentially so that nobody can play it for a prolonged period of time. And like y- y- nobody can play it, so and you don't add much to it. It just feels almost like a slap in the face. Like, just it felt unnecessary. I really didn't see the point in having that long hiatus when you didn't have to, and you didn't give much extra in terms of that. So I feel like that's a major reason that it failed too. And on top of that, they're just the microtransactions. They were cool at first, but what I really I just didn't see it after a while. When you play something like Smash, right? It's a full game. There's DLC that was added to, Ultimate and stuff like that. And Smash is the holy grail. It's kind of set the standard, but you have a myriad of characters to play as, right? But even outside of Smash, something like, say, Rivals of Ether, that was a solid game, and it got a second game. They took some time to create another game, but the original game was still, the servers were up and everything, if I'm not mistaken. Same with, say, Nick All Star Brawl. It came out not too long before um Marvel. I mean, not Marvel Rise, but Multiverses. Yet they were able to do a second game as well, and I feel like Multiverses was better than the original Nick Brawl, but Nick Brawl 2 felt a lot like Ultimate, and they made a lot of improvements, and you can tell that they did a lot in that time. Even if that were an update and they shut down the servers, you would be able to see what they did in that time. But when it comes to Multiverses, unlike these other platform fighters, and also Brawlhalla does it really well too. Like, they're a live service game, if I'm not mistaken, and they're a platform fighter, and it's very simplified, but it still has a fan base. And that's another thing in terms of like simplification. It felt like a weird in between, as if it were similar to Brawlhalla with a few more mechanics, like in between the Brawlhalla and Smash. And that, in my opinion, also didn't work on its end, because it's like I could play this, but I could also just play something a bit more complex, like, Smash or something like that. And again, the live service model can work. Like I said, Brawlhalla works, and Marvel Marvel Rivals is relatively new at this point still, but it's doing numbers. It's doing insane numbers right now. So all that to say, it's really sad to see that happen to a game, though, especially. And I had some fun times with it early on. Like I said, me and my friends were playing it. It was magnificent. But, I guess that's how the cookie crumbles. But hopefully we see improvements among like the platform fighting genre, because as much as I love Smash, it would be nice to see some variety. So hopefully, you know, going forward, maybe the live service model does a little bit better within the fighting games. I think 2XKO might be a live service when it drops. I could be mistaken on that one, but yeah, I just came on here to ramble about multiverses, and I think I've covered most of I think I've covered most of what I needed to say. So with that being said, RIP Multiverses. If you like this video, please feel free to leave a like. I make more video. If you want to see more video game content, also let me know what you'd like to see next as well. And if you want to support me further, I do have a Patreon. I can link that in the description below. But other than that, I've rambled long enough. So RIP Multiverses, and y'all have a good day. One more thing, if you're going to leave the game completely offline for everybody to only play offline, you could have at least allowed everybody to have all the content. That would be cool, at least to have your game alive for tournaments. But hey, maybe they will later. I doubt it, but that would have been cool too.